ALG really saved me. I put all of my success on joining this group. People constantly checking in saved me.
I made so many friends with people that I've never met, but I feel incredibly close to, and I consider them family.
It really is a family. It is a place where you can just be yourself, and there is no judgment. There is no shame. You are so welcome there.
Nobody has to be in this alone. Everybody is either going through or has gone through the same thing at one point.
Let's do this.
Welcome back to another edition of the ALG podcast. If you're listening to this on the day of drop, then happy Friday to you. I told you guys we were coming back. I didn't lie last week. I told you we had another episode rocked, rolling, and ready to go. So here we go. Today I am joined alongside my partner in crime, David Roden, otherwise known as Fit_D-Rock. And today we have a very special guest, none other than Levi Garrett. Levi, what is your Instagram handle again?
Fluffy the Fit 85, and that's where you can find me.
And as always,
that's all I do.
Yeah, well, you know. And as always, I'm John Arpino, otherwise known as JR's Journey on Instagram and across all social media platforms. And this is the Accountable Life Group podcast, so welcome. Today we are talking about, David, what are we talking about?
Competing. The good, the bad, the ugly. I think all of us have gotten obnoxious amount of DMs lately on it. I have. And the momentum of everyone doing it still getting bigger, and everyone's it's becoming because of this transformational division, it's becoming more and more vogue, more than ever. And so I thought it'd be a really good opportunity to really share the full circle of what competing's like, from how prep works to the roadblocks of prep, to the ugly side, and talking about the potential for body dysmorphia and image issues because you fixate on this what you looked on stage, and it's hard to ever get back to that. So we got three people who have all competed, who've all placed in transformation. We got Mr. Studmuffin Levi, who's won the bitch, and then you got John and myself, who basically get accountability medals, but that's all right. No,
hey, motherfucker, I placed second. I don't know where you were, but all right.
You were second?
I placed second, baby, and mine was political. I really won that show.
I was seventh. I should have been fourth, but that's life.
All right, cool. So we're going to have this show with people that have placed top 5 or better. And no, I'm only kidding. Everyone is a win. No, everyone is a win.
No, 100%.
Especially when stepping on stage, because you have to remember, yes, you absolutely, in the world of bodybuilding and competing, you are obviously competing with the other people on stage. You will be judged against them. But at the end of the day, you're really competing with yourself to see how far you can go, how much you can push your body, how much you can push your mental stamina, and just competing to me is the ultimate sacrifice, because it's how much are you willing to dedicate to a goal in a short amount of time? You know, my first prep, my one and only prep, was a 17-week prep, you know, and you feel every day of those 17 weeks. You know what I mean? Every single day. And also I wanna just put this at the front of the show, because the main show that everyone knows, if you're in the weight loss community scene on Instagram right now, is obviously summer shredding. So summer shredding season is behind us now, before we get ready for the next show that's coming up. I forget when the next one is.
I think June.
I think it is June. Yeah, it's usually June and October. So with that being said, if you are listening to this podcast and maybe you're brand new to your weight loss journey, maybe you've been on your weight loss journey for a while, and maybe competing has been on the horizon for you, hopefully you can take something from this show and apply it to your journey going forward and the plans that you have. But if you're listening to this show and you have no aspirations of competing in a bodybuilding show, that's fine. I want 100%. Everyone to know, first and foremost, that on a weight loss journey, this is not a destination that you have to go to. This is not on the roadmap You don't have to worry about this, because a lot of people now, because of the upsurgence in these shows, especially Summer Shredding, but there's other divisions that have transformation in them. People feel like this is something I have to do in my journey because everyone's doing it. It's become almost a piece, and I just want to drive that point home that you never, ever, ever have to compete on stage for as long as you live, and it's okay.
100%. Like that's becoming a big momentum right now. It's like it's almost a rite of passage. Like
right.
I have to do it because that's what everyone else is doing. So like, I mean, if David's doing it and this guy's doing it, I have to do it. It's like no. That's, I think, one of the biggest hurdles people have to understand is like competing is a motherfucker.
Exactly.
Let's put it from my lens with talking to Levi last couple weeks. I was behind the 8 ball of what I wanted to do. I was frustrated. I was like hitting my calories and everything just was kind of like when you're that restrictive for that long, it fucks with you mentally. And like even for someone like myself that's been consistent within their weight loss journey for 9 years, I got frustrated. And it's like if I'm getting frustrated after being so consistent for so long, if you're early on in your journey in particular and you just finished your weight loss itself and you're on the backside, it can be more dangerous than beneficial. Mm-hmm. Levi, what has been your experience with competing so far? On like, I guess we'll say start from the positive first, but also from like the dark side.
I mean, the positives are, like, for me, it's like you really get to see how dedicated you are to like the process of improvement physically, right? And it is a toll. It is a mental toll. Like, you really get to push to see like how far you can go down the rabbit hole, what you're willing to sacrifice to try to improve and to bring a physique that you are positive with on the stage. And then on the show day, it's like it's the culmination, right, of all your hard work. Like for me, I don't get like the process of prep and then going on stage. Like for me, prep was relatively easy to just put myself into that mind frame of like, okay, I'm going to suffer, right? I'm going to suffer. I'm going to push. And then I like being center stage, so that was like the best thing ever for me as well. The downside is when you can get in your head dramatically. The negative thoughts, you don't have a non-scale victory.
Right.
Like you don't talk about the positives of like, you are only focused on the look and the weight. And that's it. And those are the two worst things sometimes to really dial in. When you just say, okay, I'm just going to push as hard as I can, because then you can sometimes push too hard and get too lean and get too skinny. And then coming out of a show, you can get addicted to how you look and how shredded you are, where you don't want to gain the weight back.
Right.
Yep.
See, that's the thing, is a lot of the time people don't talk about it. After the show, you need to put on weight. You have to put on weight. You cannot go through this and get to realistically unhealthy body fat levels. You're not meant to be under 10% body fat. You're not meant to be for an extended amount of time and period. Like it can really cause a detriment to your mind and your psyche.
Absolutely.
And then being in a weight loss journey, the whole concept of having to put on weight is another thing that a lot of people don't talk about.
And doing it in a safe manner.
Exactly, because then you think about it. When you, and I can speak for me, for when I dieted, my first competition that I did this year, I didn't push extremely hard, but then when I knew I was going to compete in Worlds, I wanted to win. So I pushed harder and harder and harder and harder, and I just kept saying, I don't care, I'm going to suffer.
What organization did you do the show for?
I did WBFF. And it was a great experience. I loved it. I'll take nothing away from it, but I can tell you right now, when I did my body fat scan, coming in at 5.8% body fat was like, holy shit, I really pushed myself.
Yeah.
And I looked great on that day. I can tell you right now, it's probably the most unhealthy I've ever felt in my life, because being so low body fat, and then you add on top of carbon up, dehydration, all the things of like, how to really push your physique to maintain just a look, right? And then the whole vanity of it is like, you look at it like, okay, I've done this, now what?
Mm-hmm.
You know, no one talks about the post-game series of it all.
Nope.
You know, you talk about the prep, you talk about being on stage, but then what's after?
Mm-hmm.
You know, have I dieted down so much that I've screwed up my testosterone or my hormones? Have I created more negative eating habits because now I'm just going to binge?
Right.
Have I become addicted to this look and now I might develop an eating disorder? And like, and you see this a lot with bikini girls or even some of the girls that do transformation of like, they start throwing up because they binge, and they just develop another eating disorder after that. Like, there is a ton of issues that happen with competition, right? That's why I've said this when people I get those DMs and they're like, "Would you do it again?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm world champ. Of course I'll do it again."
Right.
Even if I didn't win, I would do it again because I don't attach myself to transformation. I'm a bodybuilder.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I love the bodybuild. I love to transform my body. I love to transform how I look. Like, even right now, I've been more open and honest. The fact that I stepped on stage at 195, I'm 230 pounds today. I needed to be that big.
Yep.
Because that's where my body is most comfortable, is around 14% body fat, which is where I am right now. So, and that's okay, you know? And if you don't develop your mind frame around the fact that you need to gain weight, you are going to push yourself to a limit that you didn't think you were going to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And is it worth it? And it's not a rite of passage just because you're doing, I lost weight, I have to do a transformation competition. David said it, John, you said it, you don't have to. No. There's nothing in the book of losing weight that says, hey, I must step on stage and show off everything I've done. No, you don't. We all know people that have 200 followers on Instagram that don't even showcase what they do.
Yep.
You know, like, that's one. But if you're going to do this, you need to be ready because you will get kicked in the nuts a lot of the time, mentally more than physically. I think, and that's the game with all of us. Because even when, put it like this, to get over 400, 500 pounds, there's something mentally wrong. To go through this whole process, you need to be mentally strong because a lot of those insecurities that happen when you were that big will come back up.
Mm-hmm.
And then how do you navigate those landmines again? You know what I mean? So it's a bitch. But I mean, I would do it again, and that's just me because I'm crazy. But I would definitely do it again.
I agree.
No, I get that. No, Levi, I like that flow of everything because obviously that gave you the good, the bad, the ugly, all kind of blended together in a way. John, for you, what can you walk me through your prep? Like when you did your show, you said 17-week prep. What does prep mean?
Prep is a combination of killing yourself slowly. No, for me, I mean, like obviously your diet is changing all the time. It's all according to, like, for me, I had a coach. There was a lot of people with summer shredding that never contacted a coach. They were just kind of eyeballing the whole situation, which if you're going to be serious about competing, be serious about getting a coach. Be serious about getting a good coach, someone who's going to guide you, someone who's walked that path before and have competed themselves. But obviously, listen, my diet would change. At first, it was like every 2 to 3 weeks. And then it was like, every week. And then it was almost every day. And then when you get up to show day or, peak week, that shit is forever changing. You get up to water manipulation. Yeah. The day before water manipulation starts, I drank 3 gallons of water. 3 gallons of water in one day, right? Because that's what I had to do. The following day, not even 12 hours later, I was allowed like a thimble of water per meal. And I'm not exaggerating that. Like a thimble of water. So prep is obviously a diet, but then it's also training. I trained harder than I ever did, even to lose 300 pounds. I was doing 2-a-days. I was doing cardio 2-a-days. I was doing almost 2 hours and 15 minutes of cardio at one point during prep, split up, throughout the day. But like I was doing an hour before work and I was doing an hour and 15 minutes after work. And lifting on top of that.
Yeah.
Obviously, my prep was a little bit different because, towards the tail end of it, I found out my back was totally broken. I couldn't walk, yada, yada, yada. So that was on top of that because I'm a mental case. And when I found that out and they were like, oh, you can't compete, I was like, nah, you're wrong. I'm going to compete. And I pushed that much harder because it was the final 2 weeks. And there was days that were taken away from me during that prep because I was in so much pain. So Steve, my trainer, would turn around and be like, bro, you can't even, like, I would literally grab a bar, like, grab a lat pull-down machine, hold onto the handles and be like, no, in tears because I was just in so much pain. I don't recommend, highly don't recommend that to a friend. Please let me reiterate that again and again. Do not do something like this if you're injured. But hey, it is what it is. For me, I want to compete again because, one, I know that I could come back way better than I did the first time around because you take injury off the table. I'm a whole different animal. So that's a really big reason why I would like to compete again. And then the question that I actually wanted to compel to both of you, which I guess I'll answer first, is what made you want to compete? Because you have to be a certain type of psycho to put yourself through this. So, I mean, I guess I'll start. For me, obviously, if you followed me, you listened to this podcast, I'm a big wrestling fan. Wrestling is my whole entire life. A lot of my idols are wrestlers, and a lot of them, before they became professional wrestlers, were all bodybuilders. So for me, it was kind of like, this is something that I always wanted to do. I always had dreams of either being in a wrestling ring or being, on a competition stage. And then when I first, met Steve and Steve became my trainer, he was, in prep for his first show, and I was at his first show. And when I was there, I just fell in love with the sport. You know what I mean? Like, I was just inspired by all of these men and women who were going up there pretty much naked and showing off their incredible physiques. And then once I found out that, this was, starting to get a little bit more popular within the weight loss community and the transformation community itself, I had to hitch my wagon to that horse because it was bringing together 3 worlds of mine that I wanted to come together. So that's why I personally started training. I did a bodybuilding show. What about you, David? We haven't heard from you yet.
So for me, I mean, I'm a very competitive person, and so like I there's no question I do my best. I'm at my peak when I'm competing, and I just need something to drive me above and beyond myself personally. Right. And for me, I have a bad knee, and so like the idea of doing marathons and Ironmans, I considered it. But I was like, all right, if I do that, that's going to be way more detrimental to my body than anything. And then I looked at like bodybuilding and physiques, and I'm like, this is super cool. This is something I could wrap my head around. It's more of a mental game of like controlling your nutrition, and cardio sucks, but it's not like physically that demanding. I mean, it is, but on a sense of like compared to like doing Ironmans, right. Like when it comes to knees and back, you can actually do. You could. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen it. There's guys that compete in their 50s, 60s, and 70s in bodybuilding and stuff like that. You're not seeing many Ironmans. No. Someone doing it in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. It's out there, but not nearly as much. And so it was just something for me to really push myself. And I'll be honest, like the vanity side of things, trying to figure out how good I can look and like build that aesthetic physique, sculpt my body. I really enjoy that. It's a fucking balance. And I'll be the first one to say I'm blessed where I don't deal with nearly the body image that some people do at their heaviest weight, and like even at the leaner weights. Like I just had a conversation with a buddy of mine who's lost like 120, hasn't had excess skin removal surgery, and you can just see it in his face. I mean, he just made a comment to me that it took him 6 months to have sex with his girlfriend or fiance with the lights on, and I'm like, fuck, really? He's still in that place. And so, like, I'm blessed. I don't have that. Like, I've had the excess skin removal surgeries, which plays a role. But I don't have nearly that body image issue that a lot of people do. So, for me, getting into physique, doing this, see how lean and sculpted I can get, it's fun. I enjoy it. I truly do. It sucks from a nutritional standpoint and stuff sometimes. But I truly enjoy the sport in and of itself of sculpting your body, strength training, and that whole world. which is why I got into it. But I actually obviously also did it 5 years ago in an NPC show. Was the first time I did it. And then obviously did it again and competing in Summer Shreds freaking 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. It feels like forever ago already because you're off prep.
Mine was a year ago.
Isn't that crazy? You eat semi-normal again. It's like 3 weeks feels like 3 months.
Yeah,
dude.
But yeah, that's how it was for me. Levi, what was like the big motivation for you? I mean, obviously you talk about bodybuilding in general, and you love the sport. But outside of that, what's the big for you?
I mean, very similar to John. I'm a huge wrestling fan. So like my goal weight, I'm a huge Triple H fan. Been a mark of his for years. So my goal weight when I wrestled in high school was 255.
Mm-hmm.
So when Triple H wrestled, he wrestled at 255. So I was like, okay, that's my goal. Mm-hmm. And then I always been a fan of his physique, Lex Luger's physique, like always just was like, wow, like this is really cool. And so I competed in 2019 in November, just before COVID. I competed in an NPC show in Jersey, and I actually met Sean Clarita, and I was like a foot taller than him, and I was like, what the fuck? he was twice as wide as me, but I was literally a foot taller than him.
That's
wild. He asked me, why am I doing this? I was like, I have to get over my fear of my loose skin, because I was petrified of it. I was the fat kid that never took his shirt off in the pool. So I did a bodybuilding show, so I was like, I'm going to get on a stage in front of fucking strangers and see what I can do, and that's what I did in my first show. And I got hooked, and I was like, holy shit, because I got really lean for that show. And I said, what would happen if I really went balls deep in this, right? Like if I went all in. And I just started training and studying and learning and really taking a scientific approach to bodybuilding. And, and then I competed this year. And I wanted to compete last year. I wanted to compete in 2021, but I was like, I got in my own head, and I was like, I'm not ready. I kept telling myself I'm not ready. And then when I competed this year, it was like a whole different person. Like I had to mentally switch some shit. Mm-hmm. And then I, honest to God, I wanted to compete just so I could show everybody how much better I looked than them. It was pure vanity.
Nothing wrong with that. Pure vanity?
It was pure vanity. It was pure vanity. Like I knew, and this is the thing that's like, I'm going to come across as an asshole, and I'm going to fuck. I knew, like, we're all winners. We've lost weight. Fuck that. I wanted to win. I wanted the gold medal. That's what I came here for. I wanted to walk in, fuck shit up, and walk out. That's it. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm that competitive. Now, if I would have lost, I still would have handled myself graciously, but I would have been like, I would have said, like what John said, politics. This is bullshit. I know how good I look. You know what I mean?
Mine was politics, by the way, guys. I'm not just saying that.
No, I know. But, like, yeah, because we could have a whole different podcast about just that.
That's super important when it comes to winning in these competitions. There's politics involved, and like, it's you don't understand that, again. Like, it's a fucking balance because there is so much politics involved.
And that's the thing, like, and I experienced this after I won the world championship, right? So I competed in Connecticut, and I did good at that show. And then I went to Worlds, and I won Worlds. I knew when I won that they didn't just pick me for my physique, because everybody there looked good. Everyone there looked good. Like, we had, like, my buddy Chris was there who lost 300 pounds. You know what I mean? Like, there were so many people that were there that, like, looked really good. But I knew when they looked at me, and I am very hard of hearing. So I have a ability to read people's lips, and they said Levi, and I was like, holy fuck, I did it. That was my response. I was like, holy shit, I fucking did it. But I know they picked me, not just because, like, my physique was one of the best, is that they attached their brand to me for that year.
Yep.
And they wanted to run with that, right? Now, my mindset, like, it's just going to be a little bit different, right? Like, the story is what it is. I lost, at that rate, I got down to 245 pounds lost, having 2 grandkids, having a heart attack, talking about being molested at 3 years old. Like, I got a fucking story. You know what I mean? So it's the physique and the story. You know, and a lot of people sometimes they feel some type of way about it, but it is what it is. Like, and that's another thing too. You cannot. I always do this, and I hate saying this. Like, you can't. You do whatever the fuck you want to do. But if I was in that position, do not attach your transformation to the competition win or
100%.
Because you will fuck your head up.
Absolutely.
Like, if I would have won or lost, it didn't matter. I still had a hell of a transformation, and I have a hell of a physique. You know what I mean? It's no different to me. Like, if you look at the Olympia, right? What's the difference between Bumstead and Terrence? Right? There's not really much.
The mustache.
It's the stash. But it's apples and oranges, right?
Yeah.
You have one that has the shorter Franco's physique, and then you have one that has the Arnold physique.
Mm-hmm.
It's all on what the judges want to go for that day. At the end of the day, Bumstead's going to be Bumstead, Terrence is going to be Terrence, right? So, but you can't say, oh, Terrence has a shitty physique, he can't beat Chris. No one's going to beat Chris right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But Terrence still is top 2 in the world. You know, you can't look at stuff like that. Like, so people, if you attach yourself to just that competition, you're really going to limit yourself for growth mentally.
100%.
So many times. And again, this is more of a mental game than anything else. Like, the mental aspect of competing is insane.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, when I competed, you know, I was way more calm this time around than I was when I did my first competition because I knew what to expect.
100%. I was the same way.
I knew what to expect. I knew I was going to suffer. I knew I was going to be emotional, and I knew how I had to work around it. You know, like, there are going to be points in times where you're hungry, and you're going to snap because you're hungry. There's going to be times where somebody's going to have food, and you're going to look at that food, and you're going to curse them out and call them a piece of shit because you're eating this food in front of me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just, you go through those emotions. I say, especially as a guy, you are menstruating. You are going to go on your fucking period.
Oh, yeah, you figured that out quick.
You're going to go on your period for especially the last 6 weeks, it's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's horrible. You might as well just fucking go get some Always and hold yourself and watch Titanic, buddy, because you're going to be fucking emotional.
Yep, you're going to cry and you don't even know why. Yeah.
Exactly. And you're just going to look, and you're going to be like, what? There always comes a point in prep where you ask yourself, why the fuck am I doing this?
100%.
You remember when your skin starts to hurt for no reason? Like, you've already depleted all the body fat that you could possibly shred, and then, like, the bottom of your feet start to hurt, or, like, the palms of your hands start to hurt.
Okay, I got a story to tell, but it's going to probably be fucking gross. So, either way, but fuck it.
Did your ball sack start to hurt?
Yes.
Did it? I knew you were. I don't know why I knew it. I knew that's where we were going. Yeah.
Dude, like, fucking yes. Like, it was, like, to the point. You ever have the point where it's, like, because it's, like, and this is the worst thing that I don't give a shit, but fuck it. Like, every single time, because I was so depleted, and I was so, like, you already have loose skin, and then you diet down even more, and then you get more loose skin, and then everything else starts to sag. I kept sitting on my nuts, like, 3 or 4 times every fucking day, and it was like painful. Then, of course, it's always on fucking leg day. Right? Yep. It's always a fucking leg day. It's so like you're in constant pain, your balls hurt, life hurts, you can't eat. It's like, all right.
And then you're just sitting there going, why the fuck did I do this? And I'm 6 weeks out. I got to fucking send it. I got to stay with it.
the wrong way, and it's just,
Like Levi, like that. I remember when I was like 6 weeks out, and I texted you, and I'm like, this fucking sucks. Like, I'm going to finish, but I was like, I'm behind the 8 ball of where I wanted to be, and I'm just like trying to grind it out. And like, that goes really well into that whole idea of, okay, so you're setting a goal and you're doing the show and you decided you're doing it. And like you're committed and you're like, I don't care hell or high water, whatever my weight is, whatever my physique is, I'm stepping on that fucking stage.
Yeah.
Be careful doing what I did my first show, which was, we talked about this of, I went from 275 with a torn PCL, and then 1 year later I was 212. And I did it in a year with a torn PCL. But the only reason why I got down to 212 and I got to that position was when I was like 7 weeks out and I was still way behind the 8 ball. I dropped down to 1,200 calories a day, and I was doing 2.5 hours of cardio.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just sickening.
You did 2 hours of cardio for the last 6 weeks?
Last 6 weeks with 1,200 calories, and I was still lifting. And my hips, everything was fucking brutal, But then the whole point is, I was planning on reverse dieting, and what is reverse dieting? It's like slowly bringing back your calories up for how restricted you've been.
Right.
And I did my show a week before Thanksgiving that first time, and so Thanksgiving hit, Christmas hit, all this kind of stuff. I didn't track it. I went from 212 to 252 in 6 weeks.
Yeah.
212 to 252 in 6 weeks because I hyper restricted. I did too much, and guess what? When you have the potential, if you push that hard for that long, you pull back that stretchy, and then you release and you snap back real fucking quick.
Absolutely.
And it can get to you. So make sure if you're going to do a show, give yourself time. Try to be consistent, not extreme.
Yeah.
Because don't make my mistake. Don't go 212 to 252 in fucking 6 weeks.
Well,
And I
yeah,
think
but you
this
also
is
have to remember,
something
too, your body's a sponge at that point. Also,
Yeah.
like it doesn't matter what you put in your body. Your body's going to automatically suck it up and hold on to it because you've given it nothing for the past however long you've been on prep. So, I mean, I've heard horror stories of guys gaining, no joking, around 35 pounds within 3 days. You know what I mean? Just because they just go balls to walls, get off stage, and they just eat everything in sight. Now, I come from the philosophy of you do your prep, you get on stage, you get one meal when you get off. You get one meal. You enjoy that fucking big-ass meal, but then the next day you got to start reverse dieting or it's not going to be good.
Yeah, I went through this my first competition in 2019. I got down to $175.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah. I didn't have the muscle I have now. I was literally just skin and bones. I just started, like, lifting. I thought everything was just cardio because I was the fat kid that couldn't move weight, so I didn't go to the weight floor until after I lost weight. So I wasn't as strong as I am now. But within, I want to say 10 days, I was 220.
Wow.
It's crazy. I mean, I went from just the water retention, the carb stuff. I went from this competition. I was like I didn't even able to step on the scale, but realistically, I was somewhere between 205 and 210.
Yeah.
And I went from 205 to 210. Then I had my carb up, and because of what happens with water with dehydration, your aldosterone goes through the roof. So then once you incorporate water back in, you have this huge water retention issue on the back end. And so when I got back home after just trying to drink water and get back to normal, I was 224. So I went from and that wasn't because I was eating like an asshole. That's just because of water and all the flows of how that works.
Yeah, that's just pure dehydration.
That's just how all that stuff works. So again, full circle on this whole conversation, which is if you're going to play this game and you're going to get into competing and you're something you want to do, the fluctuations for a little bit can be fucking massive.
Yeah.
And you have to be aware of that and be able to try to deal with that and get ahead of it so all of a sudden you don't go 4 days post-competition and you're up 14 pounds crying yourself to sleep eating Twinkies because you're like, oh, fuck it. It's just fuck it. I mean, if I'm going to gain 20 pounds, I might as well make it worth it. So be careful. Be careful.
Well, one, Twinkies are the GOAT. But two, one thing I also wanted to talk about is, I know John brought it up, the importance of having a coach.
Yeah.
And it was like, because your mind will play tricks on you. Because you would think you're not lean enough, you're not good enough, especially if you're coaching yourself and you start pushing. Like, the importance of a coach is invaluable, right? So, like, for me, I pretty much designed my own diet. I worked my whole way through, and I designed my whole peak week. I just had an extra set of eyes looking at me because I was in my own head. Where I was like, okay, I have this plan, but what do you think? And it was my posing coach, right? So I had that in place. So luckily for me, like, I had those pair of eyes where I was like, okay, this is going to work for me. So, like, when I did my coach check-in, I knew what I had to do, but sometimes, like, you get in your head, I'm behind. You're not really behind. You're overstressing and you're holding all that stress weight. Like, you need to let go a little bit. So that's one. But two, we all talked about it. When you're in prep, you train like an asshole. Yeah. You're training hard. Like, I know for me, I was doing cluster sets, drop sets, myo reps, everything. Yep. If I had 8 exercises in my workout, right? And I train like a minimalist. I don't train I might do I touch a weight warm up, and do 2-3 working sets, and I'm done with the exercise. And I train very minimalist because I'm a working man. I work 50 hours a week. I don't want to be in the gym more than an hour and a half, right? So you're training like an asshole. One of the things we all talked about here, you've all trained hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you a lot of the times when you get to that leanness and body fat, you will get injured.
Yeah, you're gonna break down.
Muscles.
So your body's gonna break down, dude. So a lot of the time, like, you have to, and this is something that, again, having a coach or doing research or just having the mindset of like, hey, I can do this weight when I'm 250 pounds. Now I'm 210 pounds. I'm still trying to. You cannot do it. Be smart. Live to train another day. Train with a purpose. Because a lot of the time, like I can tell you right now, the last 6 weeks, 7 weeks when I did my competition, I had an umbilical hernia. So I was have to, like, there were times where it would pop out and I would have to push it back in to finish the set.
Yeah.
And John with his back, you with your knee, like you all got hurt there. And you're going to experience that. And
Bro, you stub a toe on prep, it's like you got shot.
Oh my God, it's the worst. I remember I got a paper cut and I couldn't stop bleeding, and I was like, I'm just gonna die. I'm just gonna die here. You know what I mean?
That's it.
Or this is the worst. You ever go after?
Is
leg
anyone
day?
actually gonna do the competition after how we're talking right now?
No,
Or just
I hope
scare the
not.
fucking-
I don't know. You know,
This is the
they could
tactic. This is how you wean out
they-
competition.
They could hire us for coaches. And we
Yeah,
could tell them all
fact.
the landmines that we could fucking navigate. It was like, hey, you know what? This is gonna suck. Watch my podcast. I just letting you know this right now.
But here's the thing, though. Have you noticed now? Because I notice this all the time. So obviously, prep is a horrendous feeling, right? And it's an acquired taste. But like when Steve was on his most recent prep and David was on his most recent prep, and when you were on your most recent prep, I was jealous of you guys for being on prep because I miss the feeling of being on prep.
Yeah.
Oh, just pushing yourself, 100%. It's addictive.
I can definitely say that from my end right now is that I'm 230 pounds and I got on 230 pounds on purpose.
Yeah.
I miss the grind of, like, when I wake up and it's like there's more. Like, dude, I have striations in my fucking ass.
Yeah.
Like, and you can't. That's when you know you're lean. It's like when you
are lean as shit.
Mm-hmm.
You got you got fibers in your butt cheeks.
When you squeeze the butt cheeks together, and it's like there's lines, and I was like, and I call my ass yams. So I was like, oh, the yams is striated today. You know what I mean? The yams is looking good today. You know what I mean? Because I trained hard to get my butt. Because at one point, when I lost all my weight, I had a big ass when I was fat. So when I lost all my weight, I lost all my ass. So I was like, I did RDLs and all them hip booty girl, like, Instagram slut fucking exercises, and I was like, I got my booty back. Dude, I'm telling you, my butt's so big, if I go to prison, it's a problem. Like, I'm not gonna make
I ain't gonna make it.
Like, I ain't gonna make it. They're gonna try to take the yams. I'm like,
They're
we
trying
fight to the death.
They're
gonna fight to the death. But, like, it's one of those things, like, with prep, it's so crazy, is that you ever just wake up and I have way more energy when I'm on prep than when I'm bulking.
Absolutely.
Way more energy. I get more shit done. I'm more active. I have more, like, I'm angry as fuck, but, like, I get a ton of shit done.
Because you're in predator mode when you're on
dude,
prep.
like, it's like
you're an alpha.
Because, dude, everything is like fair game, like you're hunting.
Yep.
It's like everything's fair game. Like, I'll be at work and people be crying out, and, like, literally, girls be having, like, emotional fucking days at work, and I was like, what the fuck's your problem? Get over it. Let's go. Like, what are you crying for? You want my
I'm in
life?
the middle of prep. I'm on my second hour. Just fucking get it done.
I would tell people all the time, I was like, I haven't eaten in 3 hours. Go fuck yourself.
I'm not even allowed alternative sugar products in my coffee.
You know what I mean? I can't even have sweet and low.
Yep.
But that's the whole thing of, like, I think there is such a massive benefit to just having something you're passionate about that you're going after. Like, and also sometimes you gotta synthetically create that, because that also that ties back into the fat loss in general. Like, you're listening to this podcast and you're 100 plus pounds overweight and you're in the midst of your journey and you're in that first passion mode where you're getting the dopamine hits from the weight loss, you're seeing the number go down, you're like, yeah. When that ends, which it inevitably will,
Oh yeah.
how good are you at the disciplines that you enjoyed the process to create into a sustainable lifestyle? Because there is an issue with, you do lose the hyperfixation that gets you excited, that gets you just fucking go, 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 go. And now autopilot has to kick in a little bit. And if you're only doing your journey for the hook of that weight loss, you're only in that, as soon as you hit that number,
Yeah.
you start to sacrifice, and you start to go back, because you're so hooked on that feeling of that, just like being absolutely dominant in the zone. So you may have to synthetically do it through competing or whatever you need to do, but also that balance of just like, hey, I need to find ways to enjoy this process, even though the hyperfixation of this goal is disappearing.
Well, that's also why I did my first show too, because it was like I needed a goal. I had hit every milestone that I wanted to hit when everything I wrote on my goal list when I started my journey. I had hit it, and then we had just gotten out of the pandemic, and things were starting to open up again, and I was in this like weird depression. I was having the worst body image, just self-body image about myself at that point, and my wife turned around to me. And she was just like, I think you should do a bodybuilding show. And I was like, you're absolutely crazy. I look like garbage. I'm an asshole. I've done it all. Like, I can't do anything at this point. And she was just like, trust me, you need a goal. And, when I turned around to Steve and I was like, hey, I finally want to do a bodybuilding show. It was just like everything just flipped. And everything was just like brand new again, and I had my sights set on something, and that's really what it was for me. Like, for me, it was like, first of all, I didn't even think for a second that I was going to do as well as I did. Obviously, show day comes, in your head, you're a winner. You know what I mean? You think you've got this thing won, but in the back of my head, like I always told myself, listen, you won because you beat yourself. Whatever number gets called out, whatever you place, whatever happens, you take home a trophy, you don't take home a trophy, it doesn't make a difference. You fucking won. And then I turned around and I lost 50 pounds on prep, did it all, and, we know what the end result was. But I was at a spot where, like, I didn't know who I was on my journey anymore, and I was totally lost. And I'm glad that I had that, and I'm glad that now looking back that I competed, because I know that no matter what I do, as long as I have a goal to keep me focused, I can go chase that goal, go complete that goal, on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. It's when I don't have that I become very stagnant, and then whatever. We
go to
revert
the
to old
Bible with
things.
that too. Without vision, the people perish.
Well, you know
need
what?
something.
Some call me a god, David, so.
Sorry, Jesus.
Yeah. So I use this. I use this.
All right, wrap it up, Levi. What do you got?
I use this phrase all the time, and especially, and it helps me, and it helped me with post prep life, and even after achieving. And this is the thing that got me, is that I won the world championship. There's nothing else I could do. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, you do classic now.
Well, I'm actually thinking about that. I just need to lose skin surgery and jump on a whole bunch of gear. But
hey, man.
But one of the things that I just tell myself is every day, train with a purpose and prepare for greatness. My goal is just to have a good training session.
Yeah.
And that's all I can realistically do. And then prepare for greatness. I don't know when it's going to happen, but when it happens, I'll be ready for it. Like every single time and every single day, especially with prep and when doing these bodybuilding competitions, it is you versus you, right? Mm-hmm. And what the judges see, whatever they pick is whatever look they were going for that day. It doesn't mean that you were shit. It just means that's the look they were going for that day. So for me, I've always said this, like, as good as I am, and I'll be honest, like, I don't have any complaints about my physique. I know there's places where I need to improve, and I'm working on them. But for as good as I am, It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. I did this for me, and I love the way I look within my skin, whether it be loose or whether it be tight, whether I have big arms, big legs, little legs. Guess what? I grinded and I pushed myself to be the best that I could be. And this is something that I'm pretty sure we've even said this to ourselves during prep. For everyone that ever doubted me one fucking second, look at my stage shots and I proved you all wrong.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I didn't have doubters. It's weired. When people say the doubters thing, I'm like, I got sunshine and rainbows.
I doubted you every step. No, I'm kidding.
You guys talk with the doubter stuff, and it's like, bro, I only know sunshine and rainbows.
You fucking sheltered rich prick.
I had mom. My mom is my biggest supporter, right? My mom is all of 5'4", double hip, double knee replacement, over 300 pounds her whole fucking life. All she knows how to do is feed me, right? And she just looked at me and said, she's like, you sure you're going to do this? I was like, Mom, I'm going to win. She was like, I don't know about this, boy. I was like, I call my mom Big Ham. So I was like, Big Ham, I'm going to win. And then she called me when I was in Vegas, and my mom she doubted the whole way. And I was like, Mom, I think I have a shot. She was like, well, you go and do it, and you show the motherfuckers that you need to do it. I was like, bet. And so that was all the motivation I needed. So and that's true, because you're gonna have doubters. You're gonna have even if your number one doubter is yourself.
That's true.
You could look at those pictures and say, hey, I did something that even I didn't think I could do.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. That's huge.
I mean, I'll say this. My father's like, I wouldn't say he's one of the biggest haters that I have, but my man hates. He's my dad. You know what I mean? So, like, he thought that I was absolutely out of my mind for even doing this. And then I'll never forget. He's never told me once in my life he's proud of me. Typical dad. You know, typical Italian dad. It's okay.
Yeah.
It happens. He watched a live stream unbeknownst to me of my show. And then I get back through Gorilla and I'm backstage. And my phone rings. It's my dad. And he's on the other end. And he goes, I'm so fucking proud of you. And then that was the moment where I lost it. Like, I felt like I got hit by a freight train because it was just like, wow, I proved to my biggest hater that I got this in the bag. So, yeah, no, I mean, it is what it is. But I will end the podcast. We're gonna wrap this up right now. But I want to end with this. A wise man once said, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And the only man you got to beat is the man in the mirror. So just remember that if you are planning on doing a bodybuilding show, it is only you versus you. Don't worry about anybody else. Bring the best that you can to the table. Find a coach. Find a support system. And know that it's going to suck, but it's going to be worth it. On that note, stay beautiful, stay sexy, stay accountable. You know where to find us. You know where to follow us. 5-star rate and review. I want to thank Levi for being on today. I want to not thank David for anything. I don't know why he's even on here. And be good, guys.
Toodles.